Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tea Time with Jesse. I am Jesse, and we're here on a podcast-only episode with Angel Wheeler.
Hi,
And
how are you?
Angel is our tea friend support person here at the Teahouse. So this is, I guess the beginning, and it will pretty much be the end of a brief series that we do on the people in the Teahouse, because we don't have that many people that actually work for the Teahouse.
No.
But I thought it would be fun to be able to. I was going to have tea with Angel anyway while I was here in New Jersey, and so I figured it would actually be a great time to just, record an extra thing for you guys so you can hear a little bit about the behind the scenes of the Teahouse, and also hear Angel's take on how she got involved with tea and all that sort of stuff. So thanks for coming over for the podcast.
Of course.
Very cool. We're making the Tianjiajai, the Master Series Raw Pu'er. That's what I have in the Guy one right now, and maybe in the middle of that we'll switch up into another tea. But for now, this stuff is pretty good. You tried the Master Teas, obviously, right?
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. What did you think of the Master Teas?
Okay, so the red tea I liked a lot. The only one I didn't try was, I believe, the 2006 Shou Pu'er.
Yep.
I'm not the biggest fan of Sheng Pu'er. It was a really good Sheng Pu'er. I liked it. And I know that the tea resin is a bit divisive, but I really liked it.
Yeah.
And it was a big hit with my parents.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing about the resin is, like, I feel like for the people who enjoy that sort of like convenience of it, it's like way better than what you can get alternatively.
Exactly.
So it's not, but if you're like into the whole gongfu thing, like you want to sit down and enjoy your tea time and stuff like that, that's not what the resin is kind of for anyway. So
it's for a different type of person, someone who maybe wants to have a cup of coffee in the morning but is trying to cut down on the amount of coffee that they drink, or for someone who wants an upgrade on whatever they're drinking in the morning, which would be like my parents.
that's good. So yeah, well, thanks again for coming over, and just you want to give everybody a little brief sort of self-introduction, who you are, kind of how you came to the Teahouse.
I am Angel Wheeler, Angelica Wheeler. If you've ever gotten the misfortune of having an email sent to you saying that your package has been delayed, that's me. But no, for real, I do love talking with everyone behind the scenes. I'm more of a quiet person, so I enjoy that you have the spotlight and you have everyone is coming here for you, and I get to fix the small problems behind the scenes.
That's good. Well, I definitely appreciate it. It was one of the, I remember when I started the Teahouse, it was one of those things where people are like, what are you going to do about customer service? And I was like, well, we need customers before we have that problem. So I was like, that was definitely one of those solve it later problems. In the beginning, I did do all the emails and all that stuff, but it very quickly kind of got to the point where I was like, I could keep doing it, but there's definitely other stuff that I could keep doing, and eventually I'll need to find somebody anyway. And then I believe you contacted me first through Discord, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I bought one of your first boxes
Nice.
of tea and the
From the pre-order.
with the watching you package everything.
Yep. How long did you wait for that? Probably like 3 months or something?
3-4 months. But it was fine. I wasn't in a rush.
Yeah.
And to get just the Guy one, because I study, why am I forgetting the word? I study ancient textile production. So textile history is very big to me, and China has some of the oldest extant pieces that have been dug up out of the ground, and so much of that led me into Chinese history, and then Chinese history is intertwined with silk and tea.
Yep.
And then what was it? Initially, I was watching Yangshi Palace, and everyone drinks out of Guy ones.
Yep.
And I saw you had a Guy one, and that was the first time I'd ever seen it outside of the TV show. So
You're like, they are real.
Yes!
They do exist.
And I can buy one?
You can just buy one, as it turns out.
So I bought your travel set.
That's great. Awesome. And then, how did you like the travel set?
Oh, I loved it.
I mean, we're using it right here. You guys can't see, but I actually do literally bring the travel set around. I think one of the key things that I learned early on about being a tea person was I had another tea person told me this, and at the time I was like, oh, that's like, of course. But now, really, as a tea person, I really understand it. They're like, you have a choice if you're going to be a tea person. you have to drink the tea you're selling. So you could drink good tea or you could drink bad tea. So they're like, you can't really sell bad tea and then drink good tea yourself because everyone's going to see all the pictures and the videos that you take. Like you can't be like drinking one thing yourself and then drink another one. You know, same with the tea equipment. Like, you know, you can't be using one tea set yourself and then, you know, have another one up on the shop. And so I really like this travel set. I looked at a lot of different travel sets, and in some ways I was actually looking at travel sets for years before we actually picked these, because I would go to the tea market and I saw these travel sets everywhere, and I always, in the back of my mind, I was like, which one would I use if I actually had to travel around? So I'm glad that people have been enjoying the classic set, and we keep restocking them because when they sell out, and then people want more of them, and it's just a really basic Gaiwan set. So so you know,
I use a smaller table when I'm home because I just drink with a Gaiwan and a cup. I don't want to have to deal with
all the extra stuff. Well, next year, one of my plans is I want to come out with what they call ganpao, dry steeping. It's like it's not new per se, but it's kind of become more popular. It was something that was not that popular back when I was living in China, and when I came back this time, a lot of people were doing it. Basically, you have a tea board, but it doesn't have like the slits and the goal is not to pour any water on the board.
Okay.
But you have a board that will hold a Gaiwan, a pitcher, and a cup. And then you have a bowl outside of the board that's just kind of like a big bowl for your wash
discard
steep.
tea.
Yeah, discard.
I have one.
Yeah. And so basically you do what you say, like instead of pouring all over the board and having to clean everything up, the first wash is going to be washed into the pitcher, into the cup, and then released into the like discard bowl. And then you basically have this setup where you can make tea in the Gongfu style, but without any spillage. And so that's kind of a more, I don't want to say practical, it depends on your style. I don't think it's any more or less practical than having to clean it, but there is less cleanup if you do it that way, because in the end, everything is in the bowl. So that's, you know, maybe we could look to get some of those dry steeping sets onto the site.
I think that would be a great idea. I think and one of the things that I really appreciate about, just about our company, you know, is that tea is very personal. There is no, oh, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong. There's no pretentious of like, oh, I only get the best tea, I only have the best stuff. It's like,
I find a lot of the Western tea people kind of fall into that trap. Like, you know, I wasn't that aware of what was going on in the Western tea world before I came back for COVID, you know, exile, forced exile. But then when I came back here and I started sharing tea with some of my friends, they were like, yeah, a lot of the people in the States, they kind of are like yogis or whatever, kind of and I was like, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but most of these people, I'm guessing, are not like true tea masters, you know. It's just kind of like anything that's making people feel like they're doing it wrong is not helping people enjoy their tea.
Or helping people to get to know true tea culture.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, I like how it's called grandpa style, where you just have the leaves in the mug, you sift it with your teeth, because that's everything that I like to do in my life. The way that I do it is, how do I just get this as easy as possible?
Yeah.
Not like lazy or anything.
Sure.
But
well, there's like, I mean, it's everybody's.
How do I enjoy this without extra steps?
Everybody has their own aesthetic, so it's always fun, and that's one of the fun things about. That I've really enjoyed. And you've done a lot of work with our Discord server and like helping manage Discord server, and then eventually getting mods to help manage Discord server. But I just love going on the Discord server and seeing what people are doing with our sets, because like not everybody uses it the same way I do, which is good. It means that they're adapting it to the way they would actually drink tea. There's no point in having like a beautiful tea set if you like don't want to be the person with a tea set on your living room table, and so instead you just put it in the box and you leave it there and you take it out once a year. Like that's no good. So like, you know, there are people that do whatever the hell they want with our stuff, and that's actually a good thing.
I love answering those questions of, am I doing it wrong? And it's like, as long as you're not burning the tea, and even like if you like that bitter taste, absolutely go ahead. It's like, am I doing this wrong? I'm like not pouring out the first wash. I like to drink it. It's like, go ahead.
That's fun. So I wanted to go back and kind of it seems like a good chance to reminisce about the early days of the tea
Oh
company.
yeah.
So how did you first see the videos? I guess you saw the videos first, right?
Yeah, just I think like a lot of people my age tried to like not download TikTok for the longest time, and then like I finally did, and I just found that your feed is what you make it, so it's not this like, oh, it's terrible, it's
Yeah.
just feeding you
If
like
you're getting fed
whatever.
junk, it means you're junk.
It's no.
That's what it.
No, it's
That's what.
because
No,
you're
no.
like liking things, you're making
Yeah,
your
yeah,
own, it's who you follow, and then you popped up,
yeah.
and I had already had an interest in Chinese history, and that had to do with tea and everything. So your videos were very interesting. You just came back from China, you knew what it was like, and there's so little information here about China. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. And of course, I think like a lot of your customers, we just wanted to try what you were trying in the video.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. I mean, I was definitely happy when I started making the tea videos, and people are like, "Where can I try that?" Because I was like, "Oh, maybe if people actually start watching this channel, I would have the chance to start like a tea company per se." But but like I'm very glad that that came across on the screen, because it wasn't clear to me when I started making the videos whether it would. Like maybe people are just like, oh, I don't know what that is. I don't really care. They're using weird equipment to make it. Next. And I'm sure some people still do that. But there were definitely people on the other side that maybe from Yanxi Palace or whatever, you're like, I got the Yanxi Palace fandom locked.
I know. Are there more of us? Please, if
I'm
you
sure
like
there
Yangtze
are.
Palace, like
There's-
let me know.
yeah.
I'm looking for friends.
Yeah, have watch parties. But
But a lot of those
yeah.
shows have the guy ones.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because the Yanxi Palace is Qing Dynasty, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Qing Dynasty was the last dynasty before the fall of the dynasties, and they were actually Manchu. So they came
Yeah.
from Manchuria into Beijing from the north, and basically took over the government and eventually became Chinese. But they sort of adopted the Chinese tea as like in their own way. And so one of those, I believe, was drinking from the gaiwan. Whereas in the gongfu tea, and you see in the video, usually I'll have a pitcher and a filter and that sort of stuff. But I will say that I have gone to occasional, not anything high level, but just like whatever, like academic conference or stuff like that in China. And in the same way here, you might have like a side table with coffee or something like that. In like a formal conference in China, they'll have a gaiwan full of a couple green tea leaves, and then they'll have people coming over with hot water to give you like refills and stuff like that.
So cool.
And I'm like, this is like really cool, because it's like it's not palatial,
Yeah.
but it is effectively kind of a similar thing. Like they're I always like it when there's ways of like living in Asia to see like, oh, they're going to do this their way. Yeah, this will be a Western style academic conference, but they're going to have the refreshments in the way they want to have the refreshments.
And I think also they drank water out of the guy ones.
Yeah.
Correct?
And the cool thing about the gaiwans also from a historical perspective is because they were everyday use items, a lot of them survived.
Yeah.
They're not like rare, like, vases or anything like that, like you only occasionally find one. And so that was why I had my friend Yun Qing, who does a lot of our pu'er teas, does the music among song, our tea oranges, a lot of our teas. He gave me a old gaiwan from the Daoguang era, the Qing Dynasty,
I saw that.
1820 to 1850, somewhere in there, of like the old gaiwan. I was like, oh my god, like this must be incredibly rare. He's like, no, they have a lot of them. Like, I mean.
No, it's still
Yeah,
like
it still feels really rare. I think for him there are a lot of them. For me,
Yeah.
there are not a lot. And in an absolute amount, compared to the amount of stuff that's produced now, there's not a lot. But
yeah, it's still amazing, even if there's like a couple hundred and not like 3.
yeah.
That's still amazing.
But it's a sort of thing where like because they were household items, like everybody had gaiwans around the house. And for those of you who are listening, I really should have said at the beginning, if you don't know what the gaiwan is the lidded cup that you use to make the tea. So if you see my videos, I have this vessel that's like a bowl cup type thing, and then you strain through the lid. Gai is lid, wan is bowl or cup. So gaiwan is lidded cup, and it's the main tea brewing instrument. So so you kind of had this base interest in Chinese textiles, Chinese culture, maybe some porcelain, you know,
Yeah.
and then you saw the tea, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna. What made you like, you know, pull the trigger and actually be one of those very first supporters to buy the sampler pack?
I think you were at the apex of all of my interests because you hit the nail on the head. Like Chinese history, tea, porcelain. I come from a background of antique dealers, and they specialized in porcelain.
Oh, cool.
So
So that was your thing. Yeah.
so also getting a piece of porcelain from China was just cool, even if it's something that you like. Some porcelain comes from China anyway. Um, I don't know. It was cool. You were captivating. I enjoyed the videos, and it was a good price for.
Because my number one fear was like I was going to be like people would like the videos, but then like it is a weird transition to say like, you know, I'm actually going to send this person money and really hope they send me something because, you know, I wasn't pretending to be.
But like I don't know. It didn't look like a scam. It didn't
Maybe that's
look like...
what I was worried about because I know I wasn't a scam.
Yes.
But like you know, on the internet, there's a lot of wacky stuff on there, and also like it could be just like I'm not trying to scam people, but just like couldn't pull it off because like some people are like, oh, I'll make you this whatever this original work, or I'll make you this. You know, I'll make you a belt out of leather, and then like life gets in the way, and they just don't ever make it. You know, so in that sense, it was actually good that the pandemic happened and destroyed all the other things that I used to do with my time. And so I actually did have the time to figure it out. And do you remember getting that first sampler? What was it like when you got the first sampler in the mail?
I still have the box.
Oh,
with
nice.
you had all of the fake green paper grass
Oh,
in it.
yes, I love it.
I still have that box. Actually, it keeps my laptop
Yeah.
up off the desk a little bit.
Perfect. Still doing work.
Yeah, it is.
After all these years.
It's still working. It's working for the Teahouse now.
There we. Oh, damn! This is good.
Keeping my computer up.
That box was the best investment we ever made.
Absolutely. With the sticker and everything. I remember I was waiting when I saw the shipment because I wasn't worried that it was going to take a while because I knew it was a startup. And if I lost $40, then But then it said it shipped, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I'm waiting outside my window. I'm getting tea from China. That's so cool. And that actually made me look up other tea companies as well. But let's see. I opened up the box, and I think I waited until my husband came home from work to open it because I wanted him to see it. Smelled the oranges. Those were really cool. Let's see, what was in it? It was the Chimen red tea.
Yep.
The pu'er oranges.
Yep.
The raw pu'er, and then the white tea balls.
Yep.
I immediately got addicted to the white tea balls.
White tea balls good.
I have been buying those.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Those are really good. I feel like white tea is just really slept on in America. I feel like it fits everybody's taste here. It's really good. It's like sweet. It's just like good flavor. And I don't know why people don't drink it. It's just like it's just not here
I don't know
yet.
that they know it. Yeah, because like I had heard white tea a little bit, but it was always mixed with something. But it's light and refreshing in the way that I don't know. I like white tea hot and I like green tea cold. That's just a personal thing. But it has like that light medicinal flavor that I grew up with, like a lot of my mom brewing like kefir and all that jazz. So having that light medicinal flavor is like something that I really like. Some people may not.
I was always looking for the word to describe it because in Chinese they call it like 中药味 or 药味, but that literally means like Chinese medicine flavor.
Yeah, and that is kind of what it exactly.
And then I remember one time
it's herbal.
I said that, yeah, it's herbal, and then I remember one time I said like, oh, it has a Chinese medicine flavor, and then somebody commented, it's like, you can't just say it tastes like all Chinese medicine. There's like many types of Chinese medicine. I'm like, you're right, but I don't know a better word for it.
There's still a profile. Like there's still like it's a vibe. It's more of the vibe of the flavor.
It's the vibe of the flavor. It's all good vibes. So and then later you joined us doing customer service, and what did you think when you sent? I think you sent me a resume, didn't you?
I sent you a DM with my resume, and I remember thinking, man, this is such a long shot, but if this actually worked, this would be the coolest job ever.
Hey, has it been the coolest job ever?
It has been one of the coolest jobs ever. That's and great. I have had a lot of jobs, and I can honestly say, and to viewers, this is a very fun job, and he's a very good boss.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I was gonna say, what's the hardest part about working with me? Yeah, you're not gonna get fired.
You have ADHD. It's hard to pin you down.
It is hard to pin me down. That is definitely true. I have a bad habit, which is that, like, you know, it always gets like this when you get to the top of projects. Like, I remember at the beginning of my career when I'm at the bottom of projects, like, you kind of can't afford to have your personal failings affect the project. You have to cover up for them. And then when you get to the top, you can kind of sometimes go like, okay, just like come back to me on that. And then like, I'm going to get distracted. Now it's kind of like your job to come back to me and figure it out. And I try not to do that because I know it's really annoying. But
I
you
would
know.
a million times over prefer a kind boss who's got too many ideas in their head than one who is just extremely critical and not good with customers. Because like you've seen, some people comment about the customer service saying like it's really great. Our customer service is great because of how you've set up, how you want people to be happy. You're not like, I am just a reflection of your company and what you want me to say. I just word it for you.
Well, you do the work. I mean, like,
Well, I do the
don't
work.
sell yourself short.
No, I do the work. But like, if you said, hey, if someone's package goes missing, we do nothing. Like, all right, we do nothing. That's the company policy. But you are very frequent with giving out gift cards and making sure people are happy and having a good experience. That makes my job
it makes it easier.
so much easier.
Well, it's
Because
also,
I can be kind.
Yeah, it's also just like, this is like in some ways, the real innovation that I'm trying to bring to the tea world in the States is like the idea of the tea guy. And in China, when you go, you know, my first experience having tea was at the wholesale tea market. And at the wholesale tea market, there's 1,000 shops in one place. Like, you know, there's many places to get tea. How do you pick the right one? How do you know you're getting the good tea? How do you know you're getting a good deal? You have to have a personal relationship with the person you're with. And a lot of my personal relationships started by walking into a tea room and then just seeing if I vibe with somebody. If I sat down and they're like not interested in talking and they're not interested in me and I'm not interested in them, you know, thank you. And then you leave and you go somewhere else. But for the people that you have that vibe with, it very quickly becomes about the relationship and you build trust. And then when you have trust, that allows me to do what I did to start this company, which is I went to those people I trusted and I said, hey, here's the price point I think Americans will, you know, be able to afford. I didn't do any sophisticated market research. I just like was like, I think this is about right. Over that, it seems ridiculous. Under that, I'm not sure I can get the tea of the quality I know that I want. And then when you have that trust, it just all kind of works out. And so the goal of the tea guy is to be like, you know, build that long-term relationship. And so it's not about like, oh, like, you know, if FedEx loses a package or something like that, or if we have like a damaged tea pet, we'll send another one. You know, we had a Bluestone tea table that broke. Those are $168. Somebody broke in England. We had to pay like $100 in shipping.
Right. Yeah.
We paid like $100 in shipping to replace this guy's tea table. But the concept is, it's just like, it makes everything much easier, I think, from a brand and customer service perspective to say like, our goal is just to try to make them happy. And then unless you're a real asshole, and we have had a couple people that have been real assholes,
but it's
not many.
so much less than every other customer service job I've had.
Yeah, is that true? We have a lot less asshole customers?
So much less,
That's
like shockingly less.
That's good to know. I think part of that may be just like, maybe it's a tea person thing, but I think it's also maybe just like, you know, as you said, like the vibe from the channel kind of comes through. Like if you're an asshole, you're probably not watching my videos repeatedly and trying to chill out watching tea videos.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are, they're into the tea for different reasons, whether it's that meditative experience or whether it's that daily driver. You just want your cup of tea every day and you want to look to upgrade your tea experience. So you have like a thermos with a, what is that? Infuser.
Yep. Yeah, because I think that the types of people who have been coming to the site have been generally like really good people. Like I haven't felt a lot of pressure from I mean, I put pressure on myself to be good at my job, but I have we get customer emails even sometimes where like stuff broke in transit and people are like, I really love the set, but like, I'm not angry at all, but like one piece got chipped and I'm like, dude, we'll replace it for you. Like they're very, very nice. So like, you know, for you guys listening, cheers. pour one out on the tea pets for you guys. There we go.
Also, I want to. This is a little bit of customer service behind the scenes. If you guys are like, and this is any customer service job. This is every customer service job I've ever worked. If you come up and you have a problem and you come to customer service with that problem and you're nice, we will bend over backwards to fix it for you.
It's actually in your help to not be like angry about it, because sometimes people kind of think like, oh, in order to break through the clutter, I need to be aggressive about things.
Yeah, and it's not. I'll just turn into my HR persona, and then just like
not so good.
Like I'll still fix the problem, but
it's like, you know,
like I'm sitting at my computer feeling like hurt a little bit. So I'm gonna do my job. I'm not gonna bend over backwards.
And I wonder whether this is true. I mean, I'm interested to hear your opinion on this. Do you think that people are just so frustrated by first, in most places, having to fight through a layer of AI, then a layer of chatbots, then maybe a customer call person in India or Pakistan or the Philippines somewhere.
Yeah.
And then like they just feel like it's going to be a war when they go into the customer service.
Yeah. No, it's definitely like there's some systemic issues that are making it so that you feel like you have to be mean. I try to call like Walmart's customer service, and to get to a human being is hard.
I think like it is one of those weird things. Like, you know, there's so many different industries with so many types of customers. Like it's surprising to me that like most customer service feels bad. Like I'd say like most times you're like not really enjoying the process. And so I always get very happy when I see people are happy with the customer service, because it's like that's a big thing, not just from a business perspective, but it's like we're a tea company. We want you to be like chill and enjoying your time. Like we don't want you to feel like you're fighting your tea company.
And like the people in customer service in other jobs, they're not happy about it either. They never want to
exactly
answer you that, hey, we can't give you this gift card. We can't fix this problem. But it's always the people higher up who are like, well, I don't have to deal with the angry people. I'm setting this.
Yeah, just like the problems go to someone else. Yeah, like and that's definitely something. I mean, in the earlier days, we had some of those problems, and then we eventually did find like systematic ways of solving them, figuring out better ways of like dealing with if packages were lost or stuff like that. Because I had no e-commerce experience before I started the tea company. I was just like a tea guy. I was really and continue to be more of a comedian than anything else.
I was gonna say
I'm a comedian and like entertainer, and used to doing like live performances. And so when it comes to like dealing with customers and shipping, like I just didn't even know how it worked.
It's a whole different world.
It's a very different world. And so you know, it was one of those things where like, you know, I didn't know that if like FedEx loses your package, they just tell everybody to contact the seller. Like,
which is like, we don't have any recourse.
We don't have anything. Like, you know, that's like, it sounds very official, but it's like, well, they lost the package.
Yeah.
I got it here all the way from China safely and sent it out like, you know, within 2 days of when it was going out, and then they lose the package, and then they're like, oh yeah, just call the seller. Like, I'm like, what?
The biggest antagonist with my job would have to be the shipping companies, because I will sit on the phone with them day and night trying to find a package, and it's just like, oh, sorry. It's like, once we hand over, I feel bad telling customers this, but once we hand over your tea to a shipping company, I have no...
Yeah, we can't go to the truck and check. Like,
I have
you know,
no recourse.
We have to rely on them. So I will say though that given the amount of packages that go out, they do a pretty good job, but it's like anything else. It's like, it's flawed. So it's always useful to have, you know, people to be able to talk to. And so that always makes, especially when we have customers that had challenges and then they come back after the challenges even happier, then they're like, oh, this is great. Like, you know, it's a big deal. And I think it's more than worth, you know, keeping our customer service in the United States with people that like, especially you, because you know tea, which is even better.
Now I do,
yeah. And so I guess let's take a really quick break, because we're right here at almost a half an hour of the podcast. We're going to do another half hour. We'll talk a little bit more about tea and about, you know, behind the scenes tea time stuff.
All right.
And I'm Jesse.
And I am Angel.
And we'll be right back. Hello, everybody. We are back. Jesse
And Angel.
here. So if you're just joining in now, although I can't really know how you could be, but Angel does our customer support, has been with the Teahouse pretty much since the beginning, pretty close to the beginning. I think we've been running maybe half a year at the point you came in. And we're switching up teas. We're going to be drinking now. This is called the Black Beauty Raw Pu'er. This is, again, from Sister Ai's farm. And this is the high grade stuff, the high grade stuff. So this, I don't want to give specific numbers, but this by weight is 5 times what we paid for our master box teas.
Okay.
So it's good for special occasions, and meeting up with is actually a special occasion because it's all a digital company. We live all over the world, and so it's always fun whenever I hit the New York area. Get to hang out with Angel a bit and have some tea. So，
多谢爱姐。
对，都要感谢爱姐。对。Actually, that's a good thing we talk about is your Chinese lessons.
Oh.
So Angel came up to me once and she was like, I want to sign up for this Chinese class. Do you think it's a good class? And that's a hard question to answer because I haven't taken the classes, with other teachers. But I said, the best way to learn Chinese is you have a private tutor. Like, I can find you a private tutor.
That was such a shocking phone call. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, because I mean, I've been very, very fortunate to get excellent Chinese education throughout my life, both at college and then I had fellowships, the Fulbright Fellowship, Blakemore Fellowship. I studied at IUP at Tsinghua University. I studied at a lot of great places, and the end result of all of that knowledge is that one-on-one or small class study is the best you can do. And by the way, take a look at the tea color here.
That is so much darker.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And this is not particularly long aged either. It's just really damn good. So what did you think when I was like, oh, you should do like private Chinese classes?
Oh, I hung up the phone and I was just beaming. I was so excited.
It's fun, isn't it? So and so we found a teacher, and so you took how many classes? Like
so I believe it was 20 classes with Xie Lao Shi.
Yep.
And it was with Integrated Chinese Part 1. So I got the textbook and the workbook, and we did 2 to 3. That is so much tea. Oh my goodness.
It's a lot.
We did 2 to 3 classes a week, depending on like sometimes she was busy, sometimes I was busy, and it was 10 a.m. my time, 10 p.m. her time.
And then do you feel like your Chinese improved over the 20 classes?
So much, because I had been like self-learning myself.
Chinese is a hard language to teach yourself.
The past year.
Yeah, it's one of these things where it's like it seems weird, but like, the doing it right and having a good tutor and having a way of going about it and doing it in your own way, you can learn 5, 10, 15 times faster.
So much faster. I can hold conversations, horrible, stilted conversations, but understandable conversations.
Which is a big accomplishment for Chinese. It's not like I also studied some Spanish in high school, and you can kind of stumble through with some bad cognates and figure out things. But in Chinese, it's like if you're wrong, you're very wrong, and and if you can't understand it, you really can't understand it.
Yeah.
So that's not a small accomplishment. Cheers. Here's the second tea, the Black Beauty. Oh, so good. Oh, very nice. It's almost like so smooth you wouldn't even think it's a Sheng Pu'er.
Yeah, I'm trying. Normally, they're quite similar. Like different Sheng Pu'er is similar, but then you can like feel the differences. This feels like an entirely different tea.
Yeah, it almost feels to me like almost like 50% Sheng, 25% red, 25% white. It's like it's got a little, and this all comes back to the fact that like a lot of these classifications, the farmers were just picking the tea. The farmers would pick what was there and they'd process it in the way that they thought tastes best. And like there's it's funny, a lot of these distinctions about, oh, this is this is this. Use this much water for this size guy one. A lot of that in my mind is really a city thing. When you get into the cities and people have the time and the energy and they don't have to work and they have time to sit down and think about tea all day, they come up with these distinctions. And then when you go to the countryside where the tea people are, they care just as much about the tea, but they're they're not like, oh, you're doing it wrong. Like,
Yeah, it seems more, at least from what I've
Yeah.
seen, it's this is how I brew it because this is how I like it.
Yeah.
This is how it tastes good.
Yeah, and so this is a very nice one. I'll give you a little bag of this to take home with you
thank
as
you.
well. So yeah, so you're taking the Chinese lessons, and what's it like taking the like one-on-one Chinese lessons?
Very fun. It was also just a busy time because I would do classes. I would get up at like 8 a.m. and then kind of like toddle around, get dressed, brush my teeth and everything. Have class and then do emails, like do work and stuff. So it was very busy doing 3 of those classes a week, but you just learned so fast. It felt like you were cramming your head.
Yeah,
Like you
I
would
mean,
get
I had
headaches.
that. So when I did my intensive Chinese classes, study abroad, I had 4 hours of that a day,
That
which is
insane.
nuts. And then I had 4 hours of homework. So whatever homework you had to do, I had to do 4 times. And then the next day I came in and we would have a pop quiz on whatever the 60 to 100 characters that were involved in that lesson. And then you had to be able to write them, like they would say the word, and you had to write the character from the lesson. It was pretty intense. But you know, there is no real shortcut to learning a language like Chinese. There are techniques that will make it more tolerable. And obviously having great teachers help, but yeah, having that sort of head blown up feeling is totally normal.
I feel like it's just easier to learn if you don't have a family to take care of, like a house and also a job. So
Yeah.
like definitely when you're younger, when you're
Yeah.
in school.
If you can find time to study it intensively, like you'll get more out of, say, like if you have like a summer break or whatever, if people have a summer break, or even
Yeah.
sometimes people are like, oh, I'm in between jobs. I'm like, great, that's
That's
a
the
good
perfect time.
that's a good time. Like, you know, if you hit it hard now, you could really build a skill. If you do like, you know, whatever, 20 minutes a day on an app, it's not really clear to me how much that's going to help you. I think
Yeah.
if you speak some already, the 20 minutes a day will help you not lose.
Yeah.
But like, it's going to be hard to learn a language like Chinese like that. I had a conversation with a Chinese teacher recently, and apparently they have what they call level 4 languages. There's level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4.
Oh, okay.
So these are ranked in order of difficulty for how long it takes a native English speaker to get fluent in the language.
Okay.
And level 1 is the easiest, and Chinese is a level 4 language, which is the
Yeah.
hardest.
Although you know what? So my dad knows a lot of languages. So I've been aware of a lot of languages. I don't, unfortunately, speak more than mine. But I don't know. Chinese does not seem like the most difficult language to me.
I think that there are elements of it that are actually surprisingly easy. The grammar is very forgiving.
Yes, there's no conjugating.
No conjugation.
Frequently no plurals.
Yeah, frequently no plural. And also, there are many ways of saying the sentence pretty much the way you want to say it. You can move around a lot of the word order, and it still be understandable. By the way, look at the color of this. Isn't that amazing?
That turned into a red tea color-wise.
It's like, it looks like a red tea, but it's totally clear. Absolutely love this tea. I'm thinking of maybe doing like a rare tea sampler, like so we can give people like 10 grams of this, like because it won't come out to literally 5 times the cost, even if the leaves are 5 times as much, because the shipping is the same cost, blah blah blah. But like, I'd love to have like a rare tea sampler like that. I actually was gonna try to get some of this, but Sister I gave me a small bag of 23-year aged sheng tea from the mountain.
Okay.
So 23-year aged ancient tree sheng pu'er from the mountain, really really good tea. That might be in the rare box along with that 30-year white tea.
I want to try that one.
Yeah.
When I saw that in the video.
Next time. Well, if you're ever in LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely on the list of things to do. So yeah, but what do you feel like you gain from learning Chinese in that tutoring environment?
In that environment, or as a whole, just
But
the
just as a
Chinese
whole,
language?
like what has learning Chinese been to you? Because you know you work for the tea company, but your daily job is not in communicating in Chinese. What do you feel like you've gotten out of it?
just there's an entirely other world of information that I can't access. Like so, Xie Lao Shi asked me what my purpose for learning Chinese was, and I'm like, there are so many books that I cannot get a hold of about, say, like Suzhou embroidery, cut silk techniques of what is it, Guangzhou, I believe. There is no information.
Yeah.
There is one YouTube video of someone who did like a quick 8-minute thing in China on every single type, and I am just like, there's so much information that I want. So reading is my goal. Like,
and that's that's like more doable than people might think. Like, you know, reading is something like conversation is very difficult unless you're in the language environment, but being able to read and comprehend, it's possible to get to a fairly high level of that even if you're not in the language environment, which is pretty cool. Also, one of the benefits, this is like one of the really cool benefits of China being a character-based language, is that you can read stuff that was written 2,000 years ago. The grammar and some archaic characters will change, but like in English, like once you get to Middle English, like you can't speak Middle English. You know, you read Chaucer, and like if you try to read Chaucer, unless you're very well educated,
unless that is what you're studying.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, and that's only, I want to say, whatever, 500, 600 years. You know, Shakespeare is hard for people, and like, you know, and Shakespeare has the benefit of literally changing our language to sound like Shakespeare because he was so popular. But like in the character languages, you can go back and you can get, even if not a full understanding, a very good understanding, because the characters have not changed in the same way that that, you know, phonetic, you know, sound-based writing has changed.
Is there terribly much difference, because since it changed from traditional to simplified in the 50s?
Well, the big one is if you want to read anything older than the 50s, you have to know traditional.
Yes.
But that's just kind of flat. But but also that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the traditional, when they simplified the characters, they also eroded some of the radicals, which are, so for people that don't know, Chinese characters are generally, most characters are made up of a combination of what they call radicals, which are kind of like building blocks. And so if you see like the animal building block on the left and another radical on the right, you can be pretty sure that the animal radical is showing you that this is an animal, that's the meaning, and then the right side is going to have some sort of sound. Now, of course, the sounds have morphed over 2,000 years, so it's not completely accurate.
Yeah, it doesn't always.
But like when you're reading this character, you could say, okay, I don't know what animal this is, but I can see that this is like an animal that's called huli or whatever. And then you can look up in the dictionary, or you can learn that word, and you know, okay, even if you don't know what specific animal that is, for context purposes, you can usually keep reading the paragraph. It's not like a completely unknown thing. And so like, these are things that you just can't do with other languages, that you don't have those hints. So if you know the traditional radicals, they're actually kind of more pure to the original writing that was older than the simplified ones are, where sometimes they messed with the radicals a bit.
Yeah, and I find them very beautiful. I am also a little afraid, because I'm still having difficulty with the simplified.
Yeah, I learned simplified all throughout college and all throughout my education, and in practice, if you get to a higher level with simplified, if you wind up going to like a karaoke, or like say a Chinatown in America where it's mostly in traditional, or you go to Hong Kong, or you go to Taiwan, then you wind up being able, through context, to basically say, okay, that's got to be that character. Like, you know, even if you don't know it like well enough to write it yourself, you'll be able to recognize it. And that's why I said like the reading is a good use of like learning Chinese. Wherever you are in the world, you can learn how to read, because you don't need to, like, you know, once you know how to read the character, you can read the character. If you're speaking, then you get into like slang and accents and all that sort of stuff.
Like the difference between watching a show in Beijing and then recently, this has been very funny. I've gotten my whole family into watching Chinese dramas.
Oh, that's great.
We've been watching.
What do you watch?
So I mostly watch Chinese historical dramas, but my husband loves rom-coms.
That's funny.
So he's gotten into Taiwanese rom-coms. So imagine he knows absolutely zero Chinese, but now he's walking around the house going, 为什么?
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 or
你想怎样?
or what's like 干什么?
你干什么? That's so
He is,
funny.
and I'm like, do you know what you mean? What you're saying? He's like, yeah, I know what these two words mean.
你干什么?
And
Yeah.
he is not learning Chinese, but
That's so funny.
So it's Office Girls on Netflix.
The Office, that's
It's
funny.
it's a
A lot of
really
good
good
stuff.
show.
That's fun. Yeah, I definitely, I feel like I need to keep up with the new shows, because one of the things I found is that because I actually worked in television when I was in China, and then when I found out when I started working in television, I would watch less television because I was like, I was focused on my show.
And I don't know if it's
Yeah.
it's from 2011.
Oh, it's a ways back. So yeah, so I missed a lot of shows. But we had, I remember we had, back when I was writing on effectively like SNL China, we would have these like guests that were like Taiwanese pop stars or like TV stars or movie stars from back in the day, or Hong Kong stars, and I didn't know any of them. And
Yeah.
so it was like it was a weird thing. Like, you know, you think like, oh, if we have a guest on, if I'm a writer on SNL, I'm gonna know who the guest is, and it's like, well, I didn't. Everyone else did.
Yeah, yeah.
There were a couple of them I knew. There was they had Sun Yang, the swimmer, on. He was like a swimmer. He competed against Michael Phelps, and so
Okay.
I actually wrote a sketch where like I would play Michael Phelps, but like it's really funny because like he's like a tall, lanky swimmer,
Yeah,
and I'm like not, but I would be the only white
Yeah,
guy in the cast. So it's
exactly.
like people would like, is that better or worse? In the end, unfortunately, Michael Phelps got cut from that sketch, although we did get it on the air. But there's a lot of fun TV shows, and so yeah, if you're learning Chinese, it's a great way to do it. Like just
Yeah,
get the ear practice.
Although then my teacher would then because I knew some words only from historical dramas, so I'd go, oh, I know that word, or like,
Yeah.
oh, this word sounds like
Your teacher is like, stop referring to yourself as this concubine. like, it's not appropriate. That's just say 我, just say
Yeah,
me.
是我.
Yeah, 本切. Like no, like you gotta be catty about it. 本
No,
切饿了.
I would make her laugh so much because let's see, wan shan, the word for afternoon or night.
Yeah.
Wan shan.
Yeah, wan
correct.
shan, yeah.
Sounds like huang shan.
Oh, 皇上.
And
yeah.
she's like, we never use this word. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can imagine. We don't
Yeah,
use
yeah.
the word king often in English.
Yeah, exactly.
But they say that word so frequently.
Emperor. Yeah, 皇上.
Emperor, exactly.
Yeah.
So she got a kick out of it, and
That's
I
funny.
liked making her laugh.
There's definitely like one of those things where like you'll learn these really. I remember in the early days of learning a language, you're like, I'm a level 1 or level 2 speaker, but I know a couple level 6 words that
Exactly,
are like
exactly.
not. People are like, why do you know whatever transmogrification? Like, what did you like?
Yeah, it's like, why did you even... Oh, it was in my anime.
Yeah, exactly.
It's,
Yeah. So, but that's part of the fun. I think that you know, I always very much encourage people to learn language, and it's funny because I think to some degree, in order to learn a language well, you have to want to learn it, which means you need
have
to have
find
some,
it interesting.
You have to find it interesting, and you have to find there has to be some sort of goal, whether it's reading, you know, text you might not have otherwise had, or watching a show and enjoying it. But at the same time, if you're learning it for extremely practical purposes, like I want to know it for these reasons, usually those people burn out.
Yeah.
Because it's like
You don't have the love in it.
you have to, yeah, you don't have the love in it, and so it's like it's funny. Like I know so many people that have tried to learn Chinese, and the people I know who are the best at Chinese speaking that are not native speakers are almost always artists, creators, performers, actors, writers, the people who really care about like it. Even though it's a silly, I want to make a silly music video. Well, I have to write it. Like, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
I
need to know how to.
No one's gonna make make a Chinese version of a Lonely Island music video except for me. Like I need to figure out how to do this and pull it off. So.
And did it feel like there was like just this wall in front of you from what you wanted? Because there's like that's how I feel. Where there's so many books on Hanfu.
Oh yeah.
There's so many books on all of this stuff I want to know. None of it is translated into English.
This is one of the cooler things and why I really like Chinese, even though, and maybe because China has been so isolated from the West, is like, you know, it feel like I took Spanish in high school, but I always kind of felt like if there was something really important that needed to be translated, there would be 10,000 translators that are better than me that are very easy to find. And also just culturally, Spanish culture to like, you know, American culture is not as big of a leap. And so as the translator, it's more of like, okay, there's kind of closer to a right answer. Whereas with Chinese culture, it's like, yeah, if I wanted to learn xiangsheng, the traditional Chinese comedy, outside of a couple master's theses that were written and I managed to get my hands on, and a couple web articles, there really wasn't anything that you could read in English about that. And it's not because there wasn't anything to be said. It was just that nobody had taken their time to do it, because in order to do it, you need to be a highly skilled translator. And if you're a highly skilled translator, you're basically going to have to do it for fun if you're going to translate something like that.
It's like there's barely, and like what if I've been reading the translations of the Condor Heroes. I don't know what that's called in Chinese, but very very popular trilogy that a lot of movies are based off of. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's based off of it. And I'm like, wow, these are like new books coming out of China? No, they were written in the 50s, but they've only been translated now. They're phenomenal. I'm having so much fun reading them.
Yeah, I think this is part of the, part of the ultimate goal of a lot of my work, both the work I did in China and the work I do here, is I want to be able to help bridge this gap. Because I feel like if people were reading more of each other's books and watching more of each other's shows and everything, that's not going to save the world, but it's going to put a little bit of break on some craziness. People are going to say, oh, those people over there, blah, 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 blah.
You're going to see more people over there are just drinking tea, watching popcorn flicks, going to the movies, drinking boba.
Yep, exactly. And I think dinner. And I think that in the West, especially in America, we kind of take for granted that by making no effort, American culture will go everywhere. And it's like, and in general, that's been true. And China has been one of the few exceptions because they've basically closed off. But it's not that it's any less important to be able to share the American culture there too. So they don't have the counter, the counter thing. They say, oh, Americans, they all drink coffee. No one gives a crap about Chinese culture. It's like, no, there are a lot of tea drinkers here. And if you were just able to get some more of that information translated, then people would really enjoy it. So
also, there's a lot of Chinese Americans here.
Yep. And so there's a lot of, and the Chinese Americans are oftentimes a bridge between these things. Culturally, it's interesting because language-wise, most Chinese Americans speak pretty decent Chinese, either Mandarin or Cantonese. But culture-wise, if they didn't grow up in China, they may not know anything more about Chinese textiles than the next person.
Yeah.
But they would have the tools to be able to be a part of that, and so it's part of this. It's part of this in-betweenness. Whereas we have that advantage as Americans having these people in our country. Whereas like there are very few people like me, they're like whatever American Chinese or whatever. There's not even a thing. They don't have that concept, and so it's definitely part of the cultural exchange that needs to be done. But we got a couple minutes left. I wanted to talk a little bit just more about the tea company. And are there any customer emails that you got or customer interactions that have really stuck with you in a good way, hopefully?
Customer interactions that have stuck with me. Well, there was the one that you made a video about where someone was using tea to aid in his recovery. And I remember sending you that email and going like, hey, look, this is a very, I always forward any like heartfelt emails aimed at you to read. And then you made that video and you sent in the tea, and that was wonderful. A lot of customer interactions, it's hard to think of them as customer interactions because they're just like, I'm just talking on the Discord with people. And people are going, oh my goodness, I tried this tea and I thought this tea would be my favorite, but it ended up being red tea. Like all of those things, like I went in expecting this and I just found out this, and just that joy. I love people being excited about things. And I could hear like there's I have friends where I'll just call them up and I'll just like, tell me what you found interesting today. I love that. So we do that a lot on the Discord. A lot of people will just talk about what tea they found exciting, how they brewed it a different way. I like to be called the queen of cold brew on the Discord. We joke because I make jugs of the stuff all day. But also a lot of people who come to the Discord find that like, oh my goodness, wait, you cold brew it? And that feels like you're disrespecting it. I'm like, no, I like to drink it cold
for it.
sometimes.
It's actually I think it's less you and more that I don't make enough videos of the cold brew, so people kind of have this feeling of, oh, he never does it, so it's probably wrong. But
Well, also
no,
in
no.
China, a lot of people drink like
Yeah.
hot water
In
versus
China, they
cold.
drink hot drinks, and so it's not very traditional to do a cold brew, but it's like, it's like Chinese people drink Coca-Cola too. If you go to like a supermarket or whatever, they're gonna have like drinks in the cabinet, and people will drink cold brew, whatever, tea, sodas. Like people drink cold stuff. It's not like they're like, oh.
Yeah, no, and most of the time it's just the extra after drinking tea with hot water, and it's like, oh, I don't really feel like hot tea anymore, but there's still the
tea energy is still,
in the tea, and I don't want to waste it.
Yeah. So I think that's, again, one of the benefits of getting the actually good tea, because if you make a tea bag, you make it once, it may not even be that good that one time, but you're probably not even going to be able to re-steep it a second time. You certainly can't do like, we've made maybe 5, 6, 7 steeps of this. If you were to cold brew it, there is plenty of energy still left in there to be able to cold brew it again.
And I like listeners, if you ever meet Jesse in person and have the wonderful opportunity for him to make tea for you, eat beforehand.
Oh yeah, did you not eat?
No, I did.
I told you. Okay, good.
No, I did. I had breakfast.
I asked whether you'd eaten before. Yeah, but you
I
don't
did
want to
last
drink
time when we met in the radio station. I hadn't eaten.
Oh no.
And we had like 12 cups of oolong.
Oh god.
I was buzzing on the train.
You really do need to eat before you drink tea. It's have tea on even if not a full stomach, something in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No,
that's very important.
I just thought it was funny.
Very important. Yeah, especially because drink tea with me. Like I'm gonna make a lot of tea.
You'll just keep pouring.
I just keep pouring until
yeah.
But yeah, so interactions with the customers have been good. In what ways have you been kind of surprised or learned something maybe from your work so far at the Teahouse?
Just everything about tea. I didn't know anything about tea before. I knew about customer service, and that's how I pitched it to you was, hey, I've been in customer service a long time. I can help with that. But I wanted to know tea for the job because people were asking questions, and so then I just tried a bunch of different teas, and then that helped me meet friends at physical tea shops. And now I can taste the difference. Also finding out that all tea came from the same plant.
Yeah.
I didn't know that in the beginning.
All the tea leaf tea, it's tricky in English because anything steeped in hot water we basically call tea as a shorthand. But the tea plant is a specific
Camellia
plant.
sinensis.
Yeah, so like the actual like tea plant, when you have tea, it all does come from the same plant, but you can produce an amazing variety of flavor depending on how that plant is processed. And is it aged? Is it not aged? What do they do to it? How long do you steep it? That sort of stuff. It can create a lot of depth to it. So I always find I'm attracted to those sort of things. And comedy is the same way. Where like on the surface, it seems very smooth and natural, but underneath there's a lot of depth, and making a small change at a small part of the work really changes the comedy routine. Making a small change in when you pick the tea or how you process the tea creates a big change in the end result. And I just always found some sort of like very deep beauty in those sorts of things. Like it makes sense to me that if you make a big change, you're gonna have a big reaction.
Yeah.
It's not as clear when you make a small change that there's gonna be a big reaction. But that kind of like appeals to me in the sense that like, as human beings, it's really hard to make a big change in anything. It's like one of the things I liked about living in China at the era that I was there was it really did feel like, hey, if I do a good job with these improv shows and or with these comedy shows and inspire other comedians, like I could be a part of building the whole of the Chinese comedy scene.
Yeah.
And having that little action at the beginning of the river, changes the direction of the river as it goes down the mountain.
And it does feel a little bit like this, like we're at the ground level of
the tea.
Of Gongfu tea in America.
Oh yeah, I really feel that. I mean, like from a business perspective, you might say, well, let's wait until tea's time has come and then we'll get into it. But I'm not, I wasn't into tea for business, and even now, like we try to run the tea as a profitable company, but the point is to do good tea and get good customers and help people enjoy their tea journey. But I really feel like tea is gonna be bigger, and I think that the the first people that are the type of people listening to the podcast, the type of people that are watching the videos, like are really in on it it looks very, very clear to me like it's going to be a bigger thing.
Because it just feels
It's
like
so much better. It's like it's a very superior, like it's a superior way of making tea, and I'm not even saying that culturally. Like the tea is better.
yeah, no, the tea is a higher quality, but also just I just completely forgot.
No, but it's more than just the tea. Even it's like it's the social aspect.
Yeah.
It's the respect for the ingredients. I mean that even ties back into environmentalism. Like we're looking for ways of being able to engage not just more with the sister eye and her tea plant, but like what if we can engage with that village? What if we can engage with that region? These connections. The tea is kind of the magnet that pulls people together, but the people are doing the work, and so the tea is really one of these things that we're about an hour in the podcast. I can't go on a 10-minute rant on colonialism, but like there's like there's a
We could
lot
both.
of
That's a whole new podcast.
but there's a lot of stuff that was vanished from the traditions of what we eat and drink for the purpose of literally sometimes you can find one entrepreneur from England who wanted to make money a certain type of way.
Exactly.
And it's like, so that's why this tea has grown there. Like, it's not a coincidence that the former British colonies are the biggest tea producers in the world. It was more profitable for the British to grow it there. It doesn't necessarily mean the tea is bad there. They picked areas where you can grow good tea, but like this was not a natural way of doing tea. And so in some ways, I feel like coming back into a world where like how do we get back into a more natural state of things? It's all still recovering from colonialism.
Yeah.
How do we live in a world where there is a powerful and prosperous China, but we can all live together?
Exactly.
Because the whole world was like that for the last 2,000 years before the 1800s. At virtually any point in history, you could go and say China is one of the most, if not the most advanced civilizations in the world. If there's not a repressive force or war, we should expect that China will be a player in things going forward, and that doesn't necessarily mean there has to be conflict.
Yeah.
And similarly, for China to recognize as well that like just because they shouldn't be like, oh, we're never going to drink coffee because we're Chinese. Like that's the wrong way also. Like so I think that the tea is getting the tea right. If you get the tea right, you get a lot of other things right also.
And the barrier for entry is so low.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to hobbies.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I honestly like I'm glad that I'm doing the tea now. One thing that I wish was easier was to get my Chinese comedy across to people better, because it's just like, oh, the jokes kind of don't translate as well, or it's subtitling is a mess. And with the tea, it is very simple. It's like, I'll tell you how to make it and you can make it, and then you're part of this as well, and then you can choose how far down the rabbit hole you want
Exactly.
to go.
Also the fact just that the word tea is only ever two words. It's either cha or tea based. So everyone has a basis for, hey, have you tried this? Like, so either chai, cha, tea, te, tua, depending on the language that you speak. Everyone has some sort of basis for, oh, I have something similar to that I can identify.
It went all over the world, and it's one of those things that kind of ties people together. So, and I feel like that's something that's really needed in our modern days, whether it's people actually physically having tea together or even just listening to the podcast and being part of a greater community that's digital. But like it's one of those things that brings people together rather than pushing them apart, which I think I was one of the reasons why I kept drinking tea as more than just a beverage after after I left China. So very cool. We're running out of time, but I want to thank you for coming. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience as the person behind the scenes that stop sending me this email or whatever?
No. I honestly just like being behind the scenes and supporting everyone, having really nice tea journeys. Like, we just want everyone to have a good experience with tea, and it's quite easy to do that with my job. So I hope everyone keeps enjoying tea, keeps trying new tea, has like the ability, the willingness to try new ones and open up and learn. But I just like being behind the scenes, just going, 加油.
Yeah, 加油, 加油. And again, thank you for your work. not just as a customer service person, but you know, the company is very small, and so the vibe, having a healthy vibe in the company is important. And if you were really good at answering emails but hard to work with, it wouldn't work. So it's been a pleasure to be able to work with you and making the Tea House a place for people to enjoy. And I'll definitely every time I'm in New York, I'll let you know.
Oh,
We'll
thank
figure this
you.
out. We'll have more tea. So thank you all so much for listening. If you are interested in, if you had a good time, you made it this far into the podcast, you're exactly the type of person who should be subscribed. So subscribe to the Tea House podcast. And of course, we have video channels. So if you search Tea Time with Jesse on all the major video platforms, we're there as well to show you video versions of most of the interviews and you know, highlighted versions of the whole podcast, shorts, all that sort of stuff. We're working really hard to make sure that you can kind of get the tea content in the way that's good for you. So thank you all again. Thank you, Angel, for schlepping up to Jersey City for the interview.
Thank you. And if you're on Discord, I'm Bogbody. Feel free to say hi.
Yes, exactly. And if you're not on the Discord and you want to join, I think the easiest way is to go to the Instagram. I have a pinned story on my Instagram, on Jesse's Tea House on Instagram. There should be a join the Discord pinned story on the main page. And that'll have a link to the Discord. And I actually really encourage people to get onto the Discord because it's a great tea community. We have almost 2,000, I think over 2,000 people that are on that server now.
I believe so.
Obviously not all on at the same time, but we have a lot of really well engaged people there, and it's we have, you know, regional areas. If you're from LA, if you're from Toronto, if you're from Singapore, whatever it is.
And it's very easy to ask questions if you don't know the answers to stuff. You might get answers from your fellow tea friends.
Yes, exactly. So thank you again, Angel, and have a good day, everybody. Enjoy your tea, and we'll see you next time.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.